This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so far what are the setups we completed and whatever we discussed, those are very much common. You may implement financials, or you may implement SEM, or you may implement HCM, or you may implement PPM, or some two offerings, or one offering, three offerings, or many offerings. These setups are very much common. So far we completed common setups. Okay, common setups, common configurations we completed. Out of that, very important common configuration is our primary ledger, legal entity, and business unit definition, right? So we may implement PPM, project portfolio management, for the client. The same setups are required. So far whatever we completed, these are not only specific to SCM. For any application implementation in Fusion application, these setups are mandatory. Okay, now we'll focus on, first we'll start with the inventory application. Okay, we'll start with the inventory and we'll complete the basic setups for inventory, and we'll just go with the purchasing. That's how we'll go in the sequence. First we'll start with the inventory configuration. So if you want to perform the inventory related configuration, we have to add inventory related offering to our project. First we'll go to our project. Okay, go to project, setup and maintenance. Manage implementation projects. So ERP3 implementation project. Fine. So here we selected only two offerings, financials and procurement. Okay. So when we are going to implement the procurement, do you think we have to do basic inventory configuration? Do we need to perform inventory configuration to implement the purchasing application, which is a part of procurement?
Yes.
Yes. Which setups do you think we have to perform?
Inventory setup.
Inventory definition.
Item setup. Yeah.
Inventory setup. Okay, inventory setup. So items and all may not be mandatory, right? Items and all may not be mandatory. You may deal with expense items and all. Say you are not going to use inventory. In that case, still you have to create the inventory organization so that you can complete the purchasing configuration. That could be in EBS or Fusion application. So that means purchasing procurement got dependency on inventory. So that is the reason the basic setups which required to be completed to complete the purchasing application configuration, those setups are part of procurement also. Those setups are part of procurement. From procurement only you can create the inventory organization. If you have access to offering called as procurement, you can create the relevant setups. Say you want to create item master inventory. Yes, item master inventory you can create if you have access to procurement offering. And you want to create the inventory organization. Yes, if you have access to procurement offering, you can create the inventory organization. You want to create the sub inventory. The sub inventory when it is required, sub inventory when it is mandatory.
For receiving the item.
Receiving the item. Receiving item we do as a part of inventory, not as a part of purchasing functionality. So that is the reason sub inventory creation is, the functionality is not available within the procurement offering. Okay, when you are going to receive the material means you are receiving it to inventory. That means you are going to perform inventory transactions. So if you are going to perform the inventory transaction, you should have access to that area of the offering. So sub inventory creation and all, it's not possible from procurement, but from procurement you can create the item master and actual inventory definitions. Those you can do. Other few dependency setups also you can perform. So that's how Oracle given. If I'm going to work on financials, in financials, if you want to create the supplier, for supplier creation, who can create the supplier? Only employee user. The employee user should be a procurement agent, buyer. So as a part of financials, we don't maintain the buyer, but even if you have a task offering called as financials only, within the financials, you have a task called as procurement agent definition or say buyer definition, because finance got dependency on the task called as buyer definition. Without buyer or call as a procurement agent, without creating that procurement agent in finance, we cannot create the supplier definition. So which offering has some dependency and which other offering related task, those they included within that offering only. So when we are going to work on procurement, we have to perform few inventory related setups, but you no need to include inventory offering here to complete the procurement related setups or purchasing setups. Okay, of course, within the procurement, one of the module is purchasing. So you don't need to include, those will be part of that offering only. That offering got dependency on which other offering related tasks, those also they are including within that. So this is the point we have to understand. So now, so to do complete inventory related configuration, okay, we have to add the offering called as product management. Okay, we have to add the offering called as product management. Within this instance, we have seen all the offerings and options already enabled in this instance, right? So we gone through the process, where to enable, how to enable, right? So within this instance, all offerings and options are enabled. So to perform the inventory related configurations, to perform the inventory related setups, okay, we have to add the offering called as product management. So just add offering called as product management. Product management. Search for product management. Okay, see here, description they given. You just look at the description. What you can do with this product management, you can create and manage the items. Okay, you can configure and how you create and do manage the items. You can create and manage the items, and you can create the catalogs and structures to support the receipt accounting, cost accounting, product profitability management, and many other inventory related functionalities related configuration you can perform by using the product management offering. Okay, so simply if you compare with inventory, EBS inventory, whatever you can do within the inventory application, all the setups you can do with the help of product management, except sub inventory creation. Sub inventories you cannot create within the product management. Also for that we have a separate offering. Okay, separate offering which need to be added to our project. We'll see that also. So now just we have to add this product management to create and manage your items. Along with that items, the catalogs and other definitions also you can do. Just select and click on apply. And say done. We are adding the offering called as product management. Okay, I'll go with the inventory section. So add additional offerings, right? That's what we are doing. Add additional offerings to project. Which additional offerings we are adding to the project? Product management. Okay, product management, which allows us to do the item creation. Okay, not only item, there are many other points which you have to understand. Simple point you can take here as it's a inventory related configuration. Within the product management, they given again specification. So to do the inventory related configuration within the product management, we have a some sub classification called as product information management. Say product information management. Okay, which we call as PIM. PIM. So this is the actual application which will help us to create the items, and you can do the inventory related configuration. To do any inventory related configuration, the Fusion application, which application we use, you can simply high level, you can say product management. We have, with the product management, we can just do the inventory related configuration. Another way you can say, by using the PIM, product information management. In the product management, this is a one of the application which you have to consider. By using the PIM only, you can create actual inventories, master inventories which are virtual, and item creations. Prior to that, we have other item class definitions. We'll discuss and do it. We don't need to talk on those points now.
So
Okay,
Lakshman,
what are the setups?
Lakshman, so you're saying for item creation or catalogs we need product management. Then what exactly we have in supply chain
Sorry,
manufacturing? So what exactly then we have in supply chain and manufacturing offering?
supply chain and manufacturing.
So
No, no. What is your question? Supply chain and manufacturing? What?
so you're saying like no to have this basic inventory information like to configure that we need product management, right? Which is like product information management as you're writing. So
Correct,
what
correct.
exactly we have in supply chain over there? Like we have another offering supply chain and manufacturing, right?
No, one point here. Do you have separate anything in the EBS as a separate supply chain? No, it's a
No.
collection of modules, right?
Yeah.
Inventory, purchasing, order management, right? Very primarily those we just consider as a supply chain management applications. So in the same way here also we have a separate application. The collection of applications only you just take as a supply chain management. Take as a procurement. Procurement is not one module. The collection of modules, purchasing application, supplier portal, procurement contracts,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
there are multiple applications. The collection of applications only we are calling as procurement. In the same way, when you talk about supply chain management, collection of applications, the same we are going to work on will be purchasing, inventory, order management. Once we're done with that, we'll go with the manufacturing applications also to test basic configuration, basic process flow, which are
So
equal
so
to form and view.
so this product management it comes under supply chain manufacturing offering. Like this is one of the application under
It
that.
is not, it is not, it is part of, you can say like it is a part
Yeah.
of. If I ask you the question, inventory comes under supply chain management in EBS, what is your answer?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Same. I'm telling just is inventory functionality you can find within the product management. That means it is part
Okay.
of supply chain management. This is one of the application, okay, within the supply chain management process.
Yeah, because I was just thinking more from the licensing perspective. Let's say if I have one license for supply chain and manufacturing module, I was not offering. I was not sure, like, no, if it includes
No,
everything, or is it
that,
like, no, we have to go for a
no.
different licenses?
Yeah, got you. Like when you say like if you are going to implement supply chain management, we'll be going with a license with the selected modules. Okay, so you
Okay.
are more into core supply chain only. They are not into procurement. In that case, we'll go with this product information management and
Okay.
your order management and maybe receivables. That's all. You don't
Okay.
take for purchasing. That is separate
Okay.
like your subscription. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it's all about picking the module.
Like, what
Reality,
about inventory management?
the same, the product information management only, inventory management now here.
Okay.
The naming convention, nowhere you see as inventory, nowhere you see inventory other than roles what they given.
Okay.
Okay, so we discussed in the initial classes, Oracle acquired many products. So out of that, the relevant functionalities where if you talk about EBS inventory, it's a very limited functionality. But depending on the client requirements, the inventory should cater some other functional areas of business. They'll be involving the different. It's not only like offline stock maintenance and online. There should be best options as a part of inventory, product management, information management, maybe product development, and there are many other functional areas which are related to product. product management. Those all they just clubbed and they given as a product management based on the subscriptions the client is taking. They can go with that. If you are going with the core supply chain management, so we'll go with the product information management, which is equal to EBS, inventory functionality, which will help us for any kind of inventory transactions under the data inflow, the item inflows, outflows related processes, which we call as P2P and O2C cycles. Okay, in Fusion, you don't see the application name as inventory application that you can find with this name, product information management, which is part of product management suite. When I talk about procurement, within the procurement only we have purchasing application. Okay, so in the same way, this you can treat as offering. Within that, the specific inventory, this product information management PIM is equal to our inventory application. If you compare, fine. So with the product
Okay.
information, yeah, please. Any question? Fine. So that's what we have to understand. So we have to add this offering into our project so that we'll be able to perform inventory related configuration. Okay, inventory related configuration. So along already we have two offerings, right? Already we have financials and procurement. These two offerings already we added. Why we added financials? We are going to work on P2P cycle. So before that, we have to do the basic setups related to the common setups related to GL. So those we completed from finance, even from procurement also same available. When we are working on P2P, we need access to payables application, that is part of finance only. When we are working on O2C, we need access to receivables. Receivable setups we have to do. Those are part of finance only. That is the reason we added. And procurement, out of procurement as a part of SCM, supply chain management, we are going to implement purchasing application. So purchasing is part of procurement only. So that is the reason we added procurement offering here. Now to complete the inventory related configuration, inventory is part of product management offering. Okay, since they are grouping multiple applications as offering, our inventory is part of product management. So that is the reason we have to add that product management also to our project so that we'll be able to access inventory related tasks and we can complete the required configuration for item creation and inventory creation, inventory organization creation, and all you can do from here. So just I'm not going to write everything anyway. We are going to see, we are going to do in the system. So here simply I can say inventory organization. It could be item master, which is a virtual or actual inventories. Everything you can create within the product information management PIM application. Fine, done. And if you want to create sub inventories, okay, sub inventories task you don't find as a part of this product information management. For that you have to add separate offering called as material management. Okay, material management. Within that material management only you can find the sub inventory definition. Sub inventories and stock locators definitions are they given as a part of that offer. Fine. So here, so if client is going to implement only procurement, so within the product management, what are the inventory within the product management as a part of PIM? What are the basic setups? Those they will be giving access to procurement implementation also. But if you are going to implement complete SCM solution or if you are going to use inventory application, so in that case we require the other offering called as material management. So add material management. So the name would be, it's like material management and logistics. Okay, so material management and logistics offering we have to add to our project. Already we added product management. Now we'll go and add material management and logistics offering to our project. Just click on add, search for material management. So this is the task. Material, this is the offering, material management and logistics. Just place the cursor on that description. It talks about what it covers. Okay, you can configure materials and logistics, including the inventory, shipping, and receiving. There are certain tasks which are shared across multiple offerings. Okay, same task even in EBS also, certain setups you can do from the different application. That means the function is available across the different menus. In the different menus they included in EBS. In the same way, the tasks also they just placed in the different offerings. So from this material management also you can create the inventory organization. But if our target is just inventory organization creation, this is not required. So which we cannot do from procurement offering or product management offering is sub-inventory creation. Only for sub-inventory creation purpose, sub-inventory and stock locators definition purpose, we have to add this offering into our project. Okay, so we have to add this offering into our project. Just add this offering to our project so that it will allow you. See here in the last, the point you can see inventory, shipping and receiving. Yes, this material management offering will help us to perform the receiving. When you can perform the receiving, if you have a sub inventory, optionally of course, if you are going to deal with the locators and all locators also required, ideally those are not mandatory. Sub inventory is mandatory for receiving. To execute the receiving process, this offering we have to add so that you can create the sub inventory definition which allows you to perform the receiving, okay, within the system environment. Okay, so select this offering, just click on apply. It's added in the background, you can notice that. Say done. Then click on apply any offering. When you are adding, just verify in the background, then you say done. Okay, so we added 2 additional offerings. The purpose also we discussed, this supports inventory setups except sub inventory and stock locator definition. So that is reason to create the sub inventory and the stock locators. So we have to add the task called as material management and logistics, which supports the receiving process. Any question here, please? There are few more points when we start with the configuration we'll discuss. Okay, so just I am explaining based on EBS based points so that it will connect easily for the guys who has some understanding about EBS. So here when you are dealing with the product management means inventory, if you want to create any items, same as EBS you cannot create directly, you have to create the item classes and all. Those are part of what those points we'll discuss before we go and do it. For now that is not required. Just try to understand, to have access to perform the inventory configuration, we have to add the product management. Within the product management we have PIM, product information management, that is the actual application which is equal to inventory. So but as a part of that PIM we don't have sub inventory definition. So for that we are adding the task called as, we are adding the offering called as material management and logistics, which supports receiving process by defining sub inventory definitions.
Lakshman, do we have flexible concept? Of course, this is
Yeah, flex fields, yes we have.
okay.
Yeah, key flex fields, descriptive flex field, everything we have.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, fine. We'll see, like when you are working on the relevant, definitely we should talk about it. We'll be discussing, we'll discuss and do it. Fine, done. Fine. So this is the first thing we have to do before we start with the configuration. Okay, done. Sorry. Right,
Lakshman,
now,
what about profiles? Profile options?
yeah, we have profile options also. But it got reduced, like the usage of profile options totally they reduced. In EBS, simple example, we just completed the task, that is the reason I'm talking about it. In EBS, if you want to assign the primary ledger to any responsibility, how to assign?
Through data access set.
No. In EBS.
Security profile.
Profile option we will do.
Profile
We
option.
will set
We
now.
have a
Profile
profile
option.
option as GL ledger name. You want to
Yes,
assign
sir.
any primary ledger to any responsibility in EBS, we use profile option called as GL ledger name profile option. In EBS, in Fusion, we completed the task. We assigned primary ledger to GL roles. We didn't use any profile option. We use the concept called as data access for user's task, which is similar to profile option. It is similar to profile option, but still profile options we have, but to assign the primary ledger to specific role in the Fusion, profile option is not required. Say we are going to work on, say you want to assign operating unit to purchasing responsibility. We use profile option in EBS called as MO operating unit, but here that is not required. By using the data access for user's task only, we can associate our business unit to procurement related roles, or say purchasing related roles. You can associate. You don't use profile option, but logic will use same as a profile option. Still we have a profile option, but not for the purpose, okay, where we use in EBS. In EBS, everywhere for any mapping, connectivity, controlling, to set some restrictions, to set some behavior, how the function should work, process should work, what need to be available, what should not be available. With the different reasons, different purposes, we use profile option. But when we are going to do this kind of configurations, ideally we don't use profile options. Wherever we use profile option in EBS, in those areas we manage the mapping or configuration or association with the data access for users task. Okay, we'll come to know very clearly when we perform those activities. I'll take you through the profile option if you want to set the profile option, how to set, but the use is totally they reduced. Done. Fine. So first point is we have sorry.
A question, Lexman, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Now these two offerings, product management and material management, is a must, right?
Sorry, is not?
Is a must.
Sorry?
Is a must. Yani you need to enable these two offerings to work.
Yeah, it's a mandatory. Otherwise, from your project, you cannot perform those setups.
Because in EBS, we can use only inventory to create item and item categories, all this stuff. We have the screen and to create item master.
Correct. See, only the simple point here we have to understand is only you cannot create sub inventories and locators. Even you select product management, for that additional offering you have to select. That's it. Yes, as you mentioned, in inventory you can create everything. Even sub inventories you can create stock locators. If you have a responsibility for inventory, yes, you can do everything. But here, so this is how they given. The reason, simple example. If you are going to do the purchasing setups, okay, if you are doing the purchasing setups, what are the inventory setups need to be performed? Those may not be available from the purchasing responsibility. If I'm going to do the finance setups, what setups need to be performed for purchasing? Those setups may not be available in the payables responsibility. That means the dependency they are not taking care of in EBS, but here the dependency they are taking care of. That is reason the functionality also they segregated. If you are going to implement procurement, the product management basic setups also should be available for that. That is the reason they segregated. If you are going to implement procurement, the sub inventory definition should not be available. So that is the reason they are given as a separate offering. So if we are going to implement the procurement, this product management basic functionality would be available, but not sub inventory and all, which is really required for inventory usage. Okay, these two are mandatory, you should add, otherwise you cannot do the setups. Fine.
I mean, in the material management, I cannot find the features which exist in product management.
You can find common features are available here, also available. Inventory and all you can create from material management also.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. So there are many tasks which are shared across. Once we start doing the setups, you can understand directly. We can see. So that's how we can understand how Oracle given, how they shared the same task across the different offering based on the dependency. Fine. So this is a point we have to understand. We have to include these two additional offerings into our project. Now we are not focusing on OTC cycle. Okay, first we'll complete the inventory purchasing P2P. To work on that process, the inventory and the purchasing applications, these offerings we have to make sure those are part of your project then. Okay, now next point. So we know very well what is the structure of inventory. Okay, before we start with the configuration, we'll see what is the structure of inventory. When you talk about inventory, so inventory organization, inventory. Fine. So when I talk about inventory, primarily we should maintain item master inventory, right? Or item master organization. It's called as item master or organization. We have to create the item master organization. What is the purpose of item master organization? For item creation. We cannot create items in the actual inventories, which are physical, real inventories, right? Only you can create the items in item master in EBS. Same logic is applicable here also. So with the help of item master organization, you can create the items. So the items reality where we required in the actual inventories, the actual inventory organizations. Okay, inventory organization, that could be one or multiple, say inventory organizations. Inventory management. What purpose we use item master? Item management. Just for item. So inventory item master organization we require for item management. That means we create and maintain the items, just items. And when you talk about inventory organization, for inventory management, when you say inventory management, stock management. So if you have 100 inventories, in 100 inventories, if you are going to maintain the same item, instead of creating the same item in the 100 inventory organizations 100 times, you can create one item one time within the item master. The same you can assign to all the inventory organizations, which organizations are going to maintain the stock for the same item. That means we can avoid the duplication. To avoid the duplication of item definition, we can use the item master organization, right? Same logic, same as EBS. So within the item master, within the inventory organization, we have to maintain sub inventories. Okay, we have to maintain the sub inventories. We never create any sub inventories as a part of item master organization, which is a virtual one. This is just for item management, not for stock maintenance, not for inventory management. So a sub inventories always will create within the inventory organization. If at all client wants to go with some locators concept within the sub inventory, we have to create the stock locators. So within the sub inventory will have a stock locators. We can create the stock locators. Again within the locators, further segregation if they want to go, the bin rack and those also you can create. Okay, that's how we have a inventory structure. The inventory related points we have to understand how that definitions are structured. It's very primarily. Anyway, this is for item definition purpose. This is separate. And we have an inventory organization. Within the inventory, we'll have a sub inventories. Within the sub inventories, we'll have a stock locators. This is how we can have a inventory organization structure. And in the system, even if organization is not going, say organization they are into services, to whom you do the implementation, if they are into services, if they don't have any inventory concept, if you are going to implement the purchasing and financials or any other applications, even the client doesn't have any inventory, doesn't require inventory, and if they don't have inventory as a part of their business, still you have to create inventory, because to complete the setups, inventory is mandatory. If they have inventories, how many inventories we have, those many will be creating. And when you talk about sub inventory, as per their business, say client has an inventory organization, but as per their business, they don't have any segregation for that inventories. They don't maintain any sub inventories. Okay, so even they don't have sub inventories concept in the business, it is a mandatory as per system. If client doesn't have any, say client has 10 inventories, in no inventory there is some sub inventory concept, but still you have to create the sub inventory as a dummy definition, then only you can receive the material into organization inventory. If you want to receive the material into inventory organization, it is a mandatory, we require sub inventory. Without sub inventory specification, you cannot take the material into inventory organization when we are procuring the material from the suppliers. So that is the reason, if client requires sub inventories, yes, how many they require we have to create. If client doesn't require any sub inventories, still we have to create in the system, since that is a system requirement at least, if not business requirement. Stock locators, so there is no rule as a mandatory. If the organization required, we can create, otherwise not required. So sub inventory is for receiving purpose, to complete the receiving process. Okay, we have to create it. Stock locators, so with inventories and sub inventories also we can segregate and we can maintain the items. This is a further segregation, or say separation. Okay, separation of items, to segregate or to separate the items with the different locators, we can use this stock locators concept. This is optional, not mandatory, but item master is mandatory, inventory organization is mandatory, and sub inventory definition also, these all are mandatory. Stock locators are not mandatory, it's optional setup. Okay, that is completely optional setup. Fine. So now we'll just see the basic setups which you have to perform. First we'll see very basic setups for inventory, then we'll start with the process. Depending on which functionality we are going to test within the inventory application, accordingly we'll do the additional configuration and we'll work on the application. Okay. Sorry. Fine. The first point here is, so we'll just list out the basic setups which you have to perform as a part of inventory. Say basic setups in inventory. You can use the term as inventory or simply call it as PIM, product information management, or very high level you can call as product management. But product management not only just for inventory, for any other inventory related additional functional areas also, that will provide the solution. You are developing on product, to manage the phases of the product and lot of other product development related information you can just do, and whatever that ideology you'll be having and will be doing the planning for the product, those also can be covered in the product management. We have a different modules, different options within the product management. When you talk about inventory, for inventory functionality we have a PIM, product information management. Let's use the term as inventory, but understand that we are referring PIM, product information management. Okay, normally we use the same inventory term only, but when you see in the system, the naming convention they're given as a PIM, product information management. We'll see what basic setups we have to perform for inventory configuration. Okay, so first what we'll do is, first we'll make sure that for our business unit the inventory related business functions are enabled or not. Fine. So we know very well inventory need to be mapped with the business unit, right? So first what we have to do is say assign business unit business functions. Assign business unit business functions for our inventory. That means when we are going to implement inventory, so we have seen this point. Okay, we have performed this setup. When we perform after creating the inventory, so we assign the business unit business functions to that inventory. That inventory is going to involve in which business functions. If you are going to implement the inventory application, so So what are the business functions need to be associated to our business unit? We have to assign. If those are not assigned, we have to go and do assign. So first we'll list out the setups, then we'll go one by one. Okay. First we have to assign business unit business functions for inventory. To implement the inventory applications, which business functions need to be associated to our business unit so that the inventory configuration can be performed and the inventory can be associated with the further areas where the process is streamlined in this application suite. That's all just system will support. We'll see. Just take this point and we'll just go there and we'll discuss and we'll perform that step. So after that, so if you are going to create the inventory definition in EBS, what setup you have to perform before you are going to create the inventory organization? So when you are going to set up inventory information in EBS, we required workday calendar. Okay, without workday calendar, you cannot complete the inventory definition. Same is applicable here. The workday calendar is not mandatory to create item master inventory. So workday calendar is required if you want to create the physical inventory, actual inventory. So that is a point we have to understand. In EBS, whatever we called as workday calendar, in Fusion we call as facilities. Okay, in EBS we have a concept called as workday calendar. With workday calendar, what we can do? The workday calendar we cannot use in the inventory. That is for sure. Inventory we cannot use, but why we require as a part of inventory? So the only workday calendar you can use in the manufacturing operations. Okay, manufacturing operations. If your client is going to use application called as bills of material, if your client is going to use application called as bills of material, in the bills of material application only the workday calendar is required. Even if your client is not going to use bills of material application, still Oracle made that workday calendar definition as a mandatory, which you have to set at inventory level. Reason, if tomorrow your client is going to implement bills of material application, so the bills of material application will have integration with inventory only to access the items and all. That is the reason, since this inventory is a very fundamental application to manage that inventory and manufacturing related processes, the client may go with manufacturing, may not go with the manufacturing. Still we have to create workday calendar in EBS. With this workday, what we can do? We can just plan the material requirements. Okay, and we can create we can do the job scheduling for the shifts what they are going to have in the manufacturing process in the bills of material application. For the job scheduling and planning the material requirements, to perform all these we need workday calendar. There will be having the shifts and shift timings and working days, non-working days, all we have, those all need to be defined as a mandate in EBS. Same logic is applicable in the Fusion also. Even you may not implement this bills of material application, still it is a mandatory. Without defining this, you cannot complete your actual physical real inventory definition in the system. When you define the inventory, you have to set the inventory options or say inventory parameters. When you are setting the inventory parameters, system will look for this workday calendar. The workday calendar in the Fusion, we are not calling you the same name. Here they named it as a facilities. Okay, we have to create the facilities. Create facilities. So in EBS, with one step, you can just simple navigation. We go to inventory. We'll go with the navigation called as setup organizations. Under that, you can find calendars. That's how you can create. But here to create these facilities, we have a 3 different tasks. Okay, those tasks are, first you have to create the shifts separately, then workday pattern you have to create. After pattern you have to define the schedules. So just take these points before we go and perform in the system. Once again we'll go through and we'll understand and we'll do it. Okay, say create as a part of facilities. So just I am writing the name. This is equal to what in EBS? Workday calendar. EBS we create workday calendar, but in the Fusion the same we are going to create as a facilities. First we have to create the facility shifts. As a part of facilities, first we have to create the facility shifts. After that we have to create facility workday pattern. And one more task we have to perform to complete this facilities definition called as facilities schedules. Say create facility schedules. By performing these three tasks, we can complete the facility definition, which is equal to workday calendar in EBS application. Okay, done. After completing that, we can start creating our inventory organization. So before we go and create the inventory organization, or else what we do is first we'll go and create the item master. We know item master organization is virtual one, right? For item creation purpose only. That's not a physical one. You don't need to associate the location. So we'll go and create item master inventory first. Item master organization. Create item master inventory. But in the system we'll find the naming convention as a item organization. Let me write in the same way. I'll write in the bracket what exactly we use the naming convention. Create item organization. Nothing but item master organization. So this item master organization you can create before you create the facilities also, because this is not real one. You don't need to associate any facilities to this. So before creating the facilities also you can create. Okay, but let's create along with the or prior to actual inventory definition. Okay, after creating this, when you create your physical inventories, real inventories, those real inventories should be in the specific physical location, right? So you have to address the location with the location definition. So we have to create the location for inventory. Say create location for inventory organization. How many inventory organizations we have? Those are belongs to which locations? All the locations we have to create. So after creating the inventory location for inventory, we can create the actual inventory. Say create inventory organization. Okay, create inventory organization. This is nothing but physical inventory, actual inventory. So we know when we set up inventory, for inventory creation time, which options we'll set? We'll give the name, we'll take the organization classification, we'll give the address, location, we'll give the classification as inventory organization. We go to others tab. In others tab, which information we specify?
Parameters like inventory
Parameters.
Yeah, we
accounting.
provide accounting parameters. The additional information like the inventory is going to be under which operating net. In case of EBS, it is going to be under which operating net. That operating net is under which legal entity? The legal entity which primary ledger. Okay, these we have to specify. The similar specification we do at the time of inventory organization creation only. Along with that, what information we set?
Accounting information.
We set receiving options and inventory information also, right? Okay, when you are creating the actual inventory, we have to set the additional information like this is going to be under what, and inventory information under receiving, inventory information under receiving information. Okay, those two other options also we have to set. Similar to that here, the same receiving options here we call as receiving parameters. We have to configure receiving parameters for only our actual inventories. the virtual inventory, which is item master, we don't need to set any other information. Okay, so as a part of inventory information only, we'll set the inventory information. Okay, here only we'll be setting as a part of definition only, we'll do those definition. Inventory information will set as a part of definition only, but after along with that in EBS we set receiving options. The receiving options here we have to set separately. So say configure receiving parameters, nothing but receiving options. Okay, as a part of inventory organization only, we'll set that financial information. This belongs to which business unit and which legal entity and which primary ledger. And in EBS we have a separate option called as inventory information. So what we do as a part of inventory information, that we do as a part of inventory organization creation only, and that is not applicable again for item master. For item master you don't need to set any inventory information, just name only we have to provide. Since it's a real inventory, we have to provide inventory information and we have to set the receiving parameters also. Okay, done. So after completing this, we'll go and create the sub inventory. Once inventory is ready, we can create the sub inventory. Just give me a second, please. Fine. So after this, once inventory is ready, we'll go and create the sub inventory. So create sub inventory. Okay, so already we discussed to create the sub inventory. These all setups, whatever we discussed so far, all we can complete as a part of PIM, product information management. Okay, as a part of PIM we can complete all these setups, but if you want to create the sub inventory, okay, what we require material management and logistics. So that is the reason already we added, and locators and all we'll see when we are testing the locators concept. We'll just create and we'll do that. We'll go future specific setups so that we can understand easily. But what is a basic, very basic configuration first we'll do, then we'll have a basic transaction, then we'll focus on one by what are the different features we have, how to implement, what setups required. All will go more detail level. Fine, we'll create sub inventory. After creating the sub inventory, ideally in EBS case you can create the item, right? You can create item. Okay, before sub inventory also you can create item, not mandatory. Sub inventory for receiving purpose, just for item creation sub inventory also not mandatory. If you have item master organization, you can create item, and if you have a physical inventory, the item can be associated to that inventory. Okay, done. So we'll go and create the item. In Fusion, if you want to create item, you cannot create item directly. Okay, so for item creation and all, they included a lot of security security concepts also. Who can create the item, who cannot create the item. Even in EBS, if you have access to inventory responsibility, if you see the function called as master item, yes, you can go and create. There are no conditions which you can impose on that item creation process. So but in the Fusion, so you may have access until unless you have a privileges to create the item, the user cannot create the item. And prior to that, if you want to create any item in the Fusion applications, so we require access to item class. So user require access to item class, and along with that user required privileges to create the item, then only we can create the item. What is this item class and how it works, those points we see before we go and create in the system. Now just I am talking about what setups need to be performed. Now we no need to focus on this point more detail level. Try to understand the point. If you want to create the items in the Fusion applications, before that we have to create the item class also. I'll show you, like I will discuss, then you can understand. For now you can take as a point. Say create item class. Without item class you cannot create item. The item class level and item level will set lot of security, lot of provisioning for the users and organizations. So organization security, inventory organizations. So in which with the help of this item, with the help of item class, we create the items. So for which inventory organization can create the items by using this item class, and which person can create the items, those all setups, those all specifications will do as a part of this item class definition and item definition. At the time of definition, the system will see. Before creating also, when we talk about when you are going to perform the task, we'll discuss and we'll do it. So after item class creation only, you can create the item. After creating the items, what generally we do, where we create items always we create in the virtual inventory, that is item organization, item master organization you can call. So after creating the items, those items need to be assigned to inventory organizations, which are actual inventories. Say assign items to inventory organization. Okay. So there are many other setups which you will be performing, but ideally there are certain setups which you can see as a seeded definitions, predefined definitions in the production environment also. So those, as per the client requirement, we have to create and will be creating. Here also just I am taking the very basic setups. Once we complete this, then we'll go with that other setups which need to be performed. So unit of measurement, UOM, those you can find a few seeded, right? So those you can use, and we'll see anyway how to create it. The same way in EBS, when you create the item, so to populate the parameters, item attributes, we have a templates concept. Yes, Fusion also we have a templates. So how to create the templates, how to associate, where we have to associate, those points we'll discuss. The first phase, just we'll see this basic configuration. If you can complete these setups, the inventory or say PIM application will allow you to perform the inventory transactions. These setups are enough to record the basic inventory setups. Do you think some other additional setup is missing to create the inventory transactions?
Yes, category, catalogs. These are all the key
Not
flexibility.
mandatory. Yeah, that is not mandatory. We get some default one, right?
I think
Yes.
mandatory. I think
Right.
mandatory one
It
is
is mandatory.
opening the period.
Yeah, we'll create as per business requirement. Definitely in the same way, unit of measurements templates also we have to create, but as a basic definition, yeah, the categories and all will go and create it for sure. We'll do that, but the default one would be available. With that you can manage in the initial stage. Later we have to understand from where to create, how to create, how those will work also will understand. But yeah, somebody mentioned what is a mandatory opening
Period.
inventory period, right? So in Fusion, you don't need to do that. In Fusion, in inventory, there is no opening and closing the periods. Okay, you don't need to open and close the periods. So inventory look for GL period status only. If you are going to perform the inventory transactions today, the current period is opened or not in the GL, that's what system will verify. If the current period is open in the GL, that's more than enough for system to allow the transactions in inventory application. That's how it works. Fine. So these are the points we have to understand. There are other lot of configuration which we have to do in the as a part of inventory as a common basic setups. Not very basic. It's a
One question.
transaction. Sorry.
I mean, how to handle pending transactions then if we don't have any? I understand we don't have inventory periods, but pending transactions how to handle?
No. See, simple point. That's what I'm mentioning. Please don't mind. When we are working on the transaction part, we can talk about the transaction, the material transactions and all. That would be the right time to discuss. We can spend time and easily we can
Okay.
correct on that when we can. Now we are talking about setup, so let's focus on this. Once we start working on that area, yes. Okay, any difference is there, which is not there, which is available here, which is available in EBS, which is not here as so far. Those points we'll be discussing definitely. Fine.
Lakshman,
Yeah.
And in EBS, before we create anything like items and stuff, we define the key flex field, right? So
Yeah.
is in a Fusions, do we have to do that in key flex field definitions for system items, like in a catalog
System
category?
item, no, system item flex field we don't have in the Fusion. In EBS, whatever we don't have here. That is the reason I didn't mention that point to the key flex field.
Oh, so none of the key flex field which we use in.
See, I'll list out all the key flex fields which are available in the Fusion, and we'll list out which are there in EBS, and we'll compare which are not available, which they taken here, which we don't have here. In that case, how we are managing that solution and all those points we'll be discussing. We'll do that. I'll make sure that everything will be covered. Okay, fine. Now just target is very basic setups. What are the very basic setups which can allows us to perform the inventory transactions? That's what I'm trying to cover. That's all. So other point is opening and closing periods. No concept. Opening periods concept we don't have in Fusion applications for inventory. And one more point.
Question.
Yeah, please.
What about costing method? We didn't just talk about costing.
Costing method and all, you will be just we have a separate configuration. In case of EBS, when you are creating the inventory organization, within the inventory organization setup, we just go and set the inventory information, right? Within the inventory information, we'll select the costing method. But here we don't select that costing method. Here we have a cost accounting configuration. There we have to manage those setups. Cost accounting, that is separate setup. Okay, to generate the accounting entries for inventory transactions and to transfer to GL, we have to perform the cost accounting. And for receipt related accounting, receipt accounting concept we have. I'll be covering those also. We have as a part of our course curriculum. We'll discuss about them and we'll do the configuration. Okay, and we'll execute. Fine.
Lakshman, is it mandatory to set up the purchasing options?
Is it mandatory to
set up the purchasing options for this inventory?
Purchasing not required. So purchasing, if you are going to implement purchasing will have a dependency on inventory. You have to create the inventory organizations and all. But if you are going to implement inventory won't depend on purchasing. Okay. Inventory will depend on purchasing will depend on inventory. If you are going to do the inventory configuration, you require inventory organizations. If you are going to do the purchasing configuration, you require inventory organizations, which need to be completed before you start with the purchasing application. Okay, this is a basic fundamental module which will just get integrated with many other applications. To do the inventory configuration, purchasing setups we don't need to do. After inventory, if you want to implement purchasing, yes, you can do the purchasing setups. That's all.
Next one.
Yep.
In case of multi-business unit,
in case
we have multi-business unit? We have many branches, like we have many branch and we have many business unit. Do we have to create one item organization or many in this case?
How do you do in EBS?
In EBS, we create one item organization, one master item, and we keep organization null.
So you don't create items which are specific to your operating unit in EBS, right? In the same way, here also we don't create. We create one, so you can have a multiple. You may have 100 inventory organizations. 100 inventory organizations may be supporting 100 business units, and you'll be creating the items in the item master. Those will be associating with your actual inventories. Actual inventories anyway will be associated with the business units. In case of Fusion in EBS operating units, you don't need to create. Same logic. Okay, that is a very optimized process, right? If you are going to create for every operating unit or inventory organization, that is a duplication. Same items can be managed by same items. If you take some company, say, so you are selling iPhones, you have 100 branches. So the same iPhone you have to create 100 times. That is a duplication. To avoid that only, we Oracle introduced the concept called as item master. You can create only one definition wherever which inventories are going to maintain the stock for iPhones. All inventories, the same item you can assign. And once you associate that inventory with the business units, the BUs will be able to access the items. So that's how we do inventory base only. We just items will create in the item master. Wherever we require, we'll assign to inventory. So those inventory items can be accessed by business units for the respective transaction. By looking at business units, we don't create items. Same logic. This is a logic we follow in EBS. Same is applicable here also. Okay, fine. First we'll complete this and we'll go with the further configuration. First we'll complete this and we'll have a basic transaction and we'll go with the further configuration. Accordingly, we'll start working on the relevant functions.
Lakshman, while we creating the item master, are we assigning the item cost as well based on the inventory arc? Or how do we handle the item cost?
No, we don't create that. We have to do the separate setup. So just you will be creating the item and you can perform the transaction. To have a calculation and accounting entries generation, journal entries creation, transfer to GL. So you have to set up certain rules called as cost accounting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Lakshman Kalyan here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the inventory period concepts are not applicable here. Any reason why it is not being followed here?
So the reason is, see, majorly like if your GL period, like there is no such a kind of like when you are using the multiple applications, periods across all the applications, we plan to open one time and we'll close one time ideally, right? If you enter into the current month, yes, we'll open this month, and that has to be in all the applications. You'll start, all the departments will start working on the will start working in the specific period, and the periods need to be open. So there won't be specific business case where we have to manage the different period statuses for inventory and GL. If period status is open in the GL, ideally it has to be open in inventory also. If the period status is open in the purchasing, it has to be open in inventory. If period status is AP, ideally the same period status has to be open in this, because all these applications will sync and work in the business process. So by financials application, there should be very much control related to finance transactions. Here you are not going to have a too much of very business transaction, retail transactions. So the date, if you are working on the P2P cycle, the PO, the actual legal document, once that is executed, will be creating the receipt and all. If you are not able to perform the transactions here, depending on that GL periods, you cannot perform the transactions here. That's how. So based on that inflow and outflow of the process flow related transactions, the controls are maintained. So independently, the period status is not required for inventory. That is the reason they're given. But anyway, it will look at GL period status. If GL period status is open, so that is the time where you have to perform the transactions and other applications also. With that idea, they removed. But there is no great advantage of keeping that opening and closing period independently for inventory application. Not only for inventory, for purchasing application also, there is no period status concept in the Fusion. For that also they removed. When you talk about financials, yes, for payables and receivables and GL, for all these applications, we have period status, because the data will flow from these applications to those applications. Since those are finance transaction, the great control is required to restrict or to allow the users to record the business transactions. So these are finally these integrations and data flows goes to GL application. That is reason when you are creating the transactions and all, you are planning to send to GL, in the sense if the period state is not open, so here there should not be any kind of action which you can perform. System will, instead of verifying individual module called as inventory, system will verify GL application where it is integrated to transfer the data. So accounting transactions, accounting data. So that is the reason they pointed to GL status only instead of just inventory status. Based on that integration process flow, how data flows, based on that they just excluded that period status concept for inventory application. The same applicable for purchasing also.
Lakshman, one more question.
You mean to say
currently in the EBS 11i world, we in my current job role, what we do is though it is supposed to be done by the functional consultants or the business users, I being the part of the production support team, we close all the inventory periods and purchasing periods, and in the process we ensure there are no stuck pending transactions in the inventory before we close the inventory period. So when it comes to cloud, it doesn't worry about the pending transactions, because since we are talking about at the GL level, we will be handling it.
No, not like that. So we have that cost accounting and receipt accounting, right? When we are running the process, system will identify what are the pending transactions, has issues and all. You will get to know over there.
Okay.
You'll get to know over there, and you can resolve. Then you can complete that accounting and you transfer to GL. That's how they bypass that process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
When we are looking at that, you can see that point which you highlighted, the pending transactions and all, any issues against the transactions and all. In that process, system will take the control, and there they given the period concept for that process they given, not directly from the inventory.
Okay.
So correct me if I am wrong. The way I am understanding is when you issue the material or receive the material into the inventory.
Your voice is very low.
When you issue the material or when you receive the material from the inventory, the accounting transactions which are getting created, those are directly going to the GL. I think we don't need to transfer. That's what the reason.
How to transfer? See, yeah, got you. Like you are just creating receiving the material. Just you can create the material transaction. You will be creating the receipt. So that you have to account it first. After accounting, first step is creation, second step is accounting, third step is interfacing to GL. So the 3 steps. Okay. So with these setups, what we are doing, you can create the transaction.
Where we are accounting
transfer to GL, you have to perform those receipt accounting and cost accounting configuration. So first we'll perform the transaction to create accounting entries and transfer to GL, which setups need to be done, we'll do it. Otherwise, if I'm going to do everything, so the clarity little bit we can miss. That is the reason. So we'll do setups and we'll do the setup supported transactions, then we can understand. Then to do so and so activity, what we have to do, we'll do that setups and we'll execute it. Fine. I think somebody.
Okay, I understand. The question, the meaning of asking this question is, still we have the transfer to GL functionality still there, right?
Yeah, we have process. Yeah, we'll
Okay.
transfer. Create accounting only. The create accounting only will create accounting entries and it will transfer to GL. Okay. By running the create accounting, you can just do that. Fine. So first we'll complete these setups and we'll see the basic process. Then we'll just go with some other additional setups which are required, and we'll go with the features of inventory. The first point is we have to verify for our inventory specific business functions are assigned or not. Where you can verify, we have to go to the task called as assign business unit business functions. Assign business unit business function task name. See, that function is available from different offerings. It is available as a part of product management. It is available as a part of product management and the different path, and material management and logistics, procurement and financials. Okay, you can just go with any one of the path. Okay, task name remains same. I'm just selecting path which is related to procurement or material management or product management, anything you can select. So here this is a task. Let me drag little right here to see that name. Just 1 second. Fine. Yeah, this is a task. Assign business unit business function. So already okay, this is what in the last session we selected, right? We created with the wrapped implementation. So we want to check business unit business functions for RBU, right? So just click on this name, select our business unit. So after performing the wrapped implementation, to verify, we take in the navigation. At that time we selected Go Cloud US business unit as a just for navigation purpose, right? So select our business unit. We want to assign or verify the inventory related functions. So what is our name? View name ERP3. Search. Select. Say save and close. Now will take us to our business unit. This is our business unit, right? So already we enabled all the business functions. Say you didn't enable, but you are going to work on the inventory. You are going to work on the inventory. You have to make sure that to work on the inventory application, the receiving business function is enabled and material management function is enabled. Okay, the material management and receiving functions are enabled. If these two are enabled, then only you can do the inventory related setting up receiving parameters and sub inventory definitions and other definitions. Simply you say inventory related configuration you can perform if these two business functions are enabled for our BU. Just remember this point. Otherwise, say you are going to create inventory, this material management and receiving functions are not enabled. When you are creating the inventory, you have to select. If it is a physical virtual inventory, you don't need to select business unit. If you are going to create the actual inventory, real inventory, you have to select business unit. It's a mandatory. We have to specify that is going to be under which business unit. If you don't enable, you don't find our BU in that LOV. Okay, you don't find our BU in the LOV, as well as you cannot specify that inventory would be under which primary ledger and which legal entity also. So this BU, this information you cannot find if you don't enable these options. You can access to the task to perform create inventory, so you can go, but in the LOV, the selection won't be available since you are not going to enable these. So make sure that the material management and the receiving business functions are enabled for our BU. Okay, the material management and the receiving functions are not enabled for our BU. Only this point we have to verify. So at the time of BU creation only we enabled all, right? But just to understand that point, what we have to make sure before you start with inventory, so I'm just mentioning here. Okay, this is already done. Just now we verified. Maybe like so we'll just proceed with these setups in the tomorrow session. It's already 9:40, close to 9:40. So in the tomorrow session we'll complete all these setups. We'll discuss wherever some understanding is required before we perform the setups in the system. Fine. So we're done for today. If you have any questions, you can stay back. If you don't have any questions, you can drop from the meeting.